Hi, my name is Danica Walters. I chose Eating Christmas in the Kalahari. I chose this article because there's a great big huge water park back home called the Kalahari, and I used to go there like literally all the time. So the name just not nostalgia. The main idea of this article is that cultural misunderstandings can arise when jokes and generosity are interpreted differently. Lee was an anthropologist living with the Kung in the Kalahari Desert while studying their culture. He wanted to thank them for their kindness, so Lee buys a large ox as a Christmas gift for the people he's living with because he thought it'd be seen as a generous and impressive gift. He brings the ox back, and the people did not praise him at all. Instead, he was made fun of because they said the ox is too old and too thin. Later, Lee was told that teasing is a part of their culture and not an insult. But whenever someone hunts or provides food, the group makes fun of it. They do this not because the food is bad, but to keep the hunters humble and prevent arrogance and maintain the quality of their community. The worldview shapes the interpretation of cultural meaning because Lee and the people both understood the same event, giving and receiving the ox, but still is very different based on their cultural values. From Lee's point of view, buying the biggest ox was a generous gift and was meant to bring joy, but the people see it as praising a hunter, which could lead to arrogance, so they mock the ox and the hunter stays humble. Lee at first felt hurt and embarrassed, thinking people were ungrateful, but then he learned that teasing was not rejection, but a cultural practice of insulting the meat. This serves as a harmony for their community. One anthrocentric bias in the article is that Lee assumed buying a large ox would automatically be seen as a generous and impressive gift, just as it would in his own Western culture. His worldview made him expect gratitude and admiration, so when the people mocked the ox, he misread their response as ungrateful or insulting. This shows how his cultural lens shaped his perception until he realized that the teasing was actually a way to promote humility and equality in their society. This story challenges the idea by showing how actions carry completely different meanings across societies. It reminds us to question our assumptions and recognize that other cultural practices may be just as meaningful and valuable as our own. This taught me that we should understand people's actions within their own cultural context, not just through our own. It shows that what seems negative from one perspective can actually have a positive meaning in another perspective. So the specific norm/tradition I chose was 4th of July. When Americans celebrate 4th of July, it usually means fireworks, barbecue, patriotic pride. For many, it's about freedom, independence, and honoring this country's history. But an outsider looking in might see it very differently depending on their worldview. Someone from a country that also fought for independence might see it as inspiring and admire the Americans that celebrate their freedom. But someone from a nation who's still struggling with history could find it ironic or even frustrating that the U.S. celebrates liberty while their people are still fighting for it. In other cultures, the strong focus on individual freedom and national pride might feel overly self-centered or boastful. And in countries where U.S. foreign policy has caused harm, the parades and flag waving might look less like a celebration and more like nationalism or even arrogance. What seems like joy and pride to Americans might seem excessive, confusing, or even offensive to others. Just like eating Christmas in the Kalahari, the same event can hold completely different meanings depending on the cultural lens and how you interpret it. A good practice for communication across cultures is to approach people with curiosity, instead of assuming your own way of thinking is the right one. For example, in the article Eating Christmas in the Kalahari, again, Lee thought that buying a large ox as a Christmas gift would make him generous and gain him gratitude. But when the people teased him, he misread their jokes as ungratefulness. Later, he learned that teasing is actually a part of their culture to keep the hunters humble and prevent arrogance. This story shows that if we listen and ask questions before judgment, we can avoid misunderstandings and build strong relationships. Communicating across cultures works best when we stay open-minded and try to understand the values behind other people's actions. A cultural misunderstanding I once had is I didn't realize that Pacific Islander was its own racial category. I assumed that it was Hawaiian, or you just fall under the category of Asian or something else, because that's how I'd always seen race grouped in my own worldview. But I later learned that Pacific Islanders have a distinct culture, histories, and identities that deserve their own recognition. This reminds me of the misunderstanding in Eating Christmas in the Kalahari, when Lee thought that giving a large ox was a generous gift and should bring him praise, but the people teased him. From his worldview, their response seemed ungrateful, but from their worldview, it's a way to promote equality. In the same way, my assumption about race from my own cultural perspective, but it didn't match the way others defined and understood identity. Both examples should show how worldviews shape our perceptions and can lead to misunderstandings we take until we learn what's right. I think one of the most important lessons I learned from Eating Christmas in a Kalahari is that our worldview shapes the way we interpret other people's actions, and that can easily lead to misunderstanding. Like when Lee thought that they were making fun of him and mocking his ox, but in their culture, it's a way to keep everyone equal. It showed me that what seems disrespectful or unusual in one worldview might actually have a positive meaning in another. Moving forward, I can apply this lesson by slowing down, asking questions, and trying to understand situations from other people's perspective instead of rushing to judgment. When in school, at work, or even in everyday conversations, being open to different cultural meanings can help communicate with more respect and avoid misunderstandings. And that is the last of the questions. Thank you for listening, and I really like this article because it actually taught me some stuff, and now we can learn going forward.